Hi, my name is Mike Cantrell. I'm an orthopedic surgeon from Huntsville, Alabama at the Orthopedic Center, and I'm here to talk to you about becoming a ringside physician. If you're watching this video, you may have been asked by someone to cover a USA boxing event, and I'm here to tell you the ins and outs of that, why you should do it, and what the day will be like. First of all, they can't do it without you. There's a physician present at every amateur boxing event in the United States. Note also that the officials and coaches are volunteers as well. They're here to help these young men and women participate in amateur boxing. Amateur boxing is typically not a glory sport in the United States. There's not a lot of money behind it, and it's a lot of times utilized by coaches and officials to help young kids who need help to get off the streets and to participate in something that's competitive and it's going to build them up throughout their lives. And so that's another good reason to do it. It's a great way to help people, and that's what makes us feel good. So to become a ringside physician in the United States, you need to be a licensed MD or DO. You need to possess basic doctoring skills, a positive attitude, and a learning spirit. As a ringside physician, you'll cover amateur boxing events. These may be small events such as club shows, which have 10 to 20 bouts, and then may progress to larger events, which are multi-day tournaments. On the day of the event, you'll want to arrive a little bit early. There'll be an appointed time for weigh-ins and physicals. At that time, they'll have the boxers waiting in line to see you with their passbooks. The passbook is a document that gives you a lot of information. Each boxer has to have a passbook. It can tell you what bouts they've had. It can tell you any medical problems they've had in the past. Also, a great thing that USA Boxing does is each athlete has to have a yearly sports physical. And in the back of that passbook will be the documentation that that physical has been completed and it's been passed by that boxer. At the time of the physicals, you'll want to engage the boxer in conversation initially. I always ask them how old they are, how long they've been boxing, and how many bouts they have. I'll drill down at that point to their medical history. I'll ask them if they have any medical problems, specifically any problems with their heart or their lungs. Do they have heart murmur, asthma? I'll ask them if they've ever had a concussion or a head injury. I'll ask them if they take any medicines or have ever had surgery. And if all that's clear, which it is for most boxers, I'll ask them if they've had any illnesses or injuries in the last few weeks. If all that sounds good, I'll ask them one last time, are they hurting anywhere or having any problems? Next, we'll move on to the physical, which is a focused physical exam. I'll start with a head, eyes, ears, nose, and throat exam. I'll examine their cranial nerves, check their extraocular movements, palpate their face, their nose, get them to open their mouth, check their occlusion. After that, we'll move on to the neck. I'll check their cervical spine range of motion and tenderness, do a thorough motor exam of the upper extremities, really test them for strength, and then examine all the joints of the upper extremities, primarily by palpation. If anything's tender, I'll check it out further. Next, I'll palpate their ribs, abdomen, and back, listen to their heart and lungs, and if all that's progressed nicely, I'll get them to squat down and duck walk away from me for about 10 feet. They'll then stand up, turn around, and walk halfway towards me on their toes and then the other half on their heels. If all that's been passed, and I've listened to their heart and lungs and they're clear, they're good to go. After all the physicals have been completed and everyone's ready, the bouts start. You'll have the best seat in the house. You'll be in a neutral corner right next to some stairs so you can get in and out of the ring if you need to. During the bout, the most important thing is just pay attention, watch the bout and enjoy. If one of the boxers looks like they're struggling, I'll always look at that boxer a little bit more closely during the rounds, but the main thing to do is just pay attention. You'll want to have established a communication protocol with the referee prior. At least engage them, talk to them, introduce yourself to them, particularly if you're new, so they know and you know how you're going to communicate with each other. Occasionally, a referee may bring a boxer over to you. Most of the time, if that's the case, it's for a nosebleed or something fairly simple. When the boxer is brought over the nosebleed, the first thing I do is I squeeze their nose and I ask them a few questions. Squeezing their nose lets me help the bleeding stop without technically treating them. And then additionally, I'll ask them if they've had a nosebleed before. If so, when's the last one they had? I'll look in their throat, and if their throat looks clear, there's no bright red blood there. By the time I pull my hands off their nose, the nosebleed's slowed down a lot, and most of the time they're clear to go. I'll of course palpate their nose while I'm squeezing it. If it's not particularly tender, they're good to go. Occasionally, and it's very occasional, a bout will need to be stopped. We always have the right to do that as physicians. It is very, very rare to have to do that as a physician because the referees are so good and the focus is so great on safety in amateur boxing that the referee typically will stop the bout before I would have any concerns. Many times the referee stops the bout just if a boxer's outclassed before they have any type of concern for injury at all. It's very rare to have cuts in amateur boxing. The boxers wear headgear, and so that's a rare occurrence. In fact, I've probably sewn up one cut in 10 years covering amateur boxing on a fairly regular basis. Lastly, occasionally a referee will bring over a boxer to you because they're concerned about the boxer and they want you to engage them and see if the boxer needs help or is in danger. Most of the time, those boxers are just fine. I'll talk to them, I'll ask them if they're okay, and pretty much they always tell me they're okay. If they tell me they're not okay, we'll stop the bout. Most of the time it's not a medical issue, it's just that the boxer is overwhelmed and needs a break. Occasionally a bout will be stopped because a boxer has taken too many blows to the head. Should that be the case and the referee and or the doctor feels it's appropriate, that boxer will be placed on a restriction from boxing for a certain amount of time. The shortest amount of time is 30 days. Once that happens and the boxer is safe for the night, it's out of your hands. That's handled by USA Boxing and by the boxer's regular physician or another physician who returns the boxer back to competition when they're cleared. Certainly you can be that physician, but it's not your obligation to do so. After the bout is over, I'll stand up and wait for the boxers to come down the stairs. They'll exit the ring in the stairs that are right next to me. I'll typically communicate with the boxer that won first and do their physical, and then secondly, I'll do the physical on the opponent. I learned a long time ago that most of the physical is done during the bout. If you've paid attention to the bout, you're going to know what's going on already. But I will do a brief focused physical and history when I see them. Are they hurt anywhere? Are they having any problems? And if they're not, I'll still examine them. I want their mouth guard out. I'll palpate their face, their nose, look in their mouth, palpate their hands. Almost all the time, everything is fine and they're both free to go. Once all the bouts are done, you're finished. You can proceed on. I note that I always leave amateur boxing events with a full heart and a happy heart. The referees and officials and coaches always show so much gratitude. We're all on the same mission, and they're happy that the physicians can be a part of it. And over the years covering amateur boxing as a physician, I've noted it to be such a fun, safe sport that I've actually become a boxer and competed myself. I have 9 bouts thus far. Additionally, note that it doesn't cost you anything to be a ringside physician. USA Boxing takes care of your membership. That central office is phenomenal about getting your paperwork done, and it's just an easy process. If you're watching this video on YouTube and you want more information, there'll be a link in the description below. If you're watching it on another website, there'll be a link on that page as well.